After about day 3, your body starts to produce DMT and your inner vision starts to awaken. And you start to have spiritual experiences that are as or more vivid and clear as you and I sitting here talking to each other in complete lucidity. And people can have all kinds of spontaneous spiritual powers or cities emerge.
Hey, it's the luck bowl, that place where I investigate the stuff that I did for a long time, traveling the world and documenting rituals and practices that seem to create what looks like luck. And I do this with friends of mine who are experts in different fields. And today is our doozy because we, my friends, are going dark. Few people can successfully bridge the gap between deep spiritual practice and serious professional achievement. My guest today is one of those rare people. He's an urban monk, an entrepreneur, and a consciousness explorer who has spent decades studying and, more importantly, practicing multiple esoteric traditions. Now he's the founder of Accraya, a global network of darkroom meditation sanctuaries that bring this ancient consciousness practice into our modern, hyper-stimulated world. So without further ado, please welcome my great mate, Mr. Ian Gardner. G'day, mate. It's great to see you.
Pleasure to be here. Good to see you again. Dale,
In scorching Scottsdale, Arizona.
yeah, it's a cool one today. It's down from 117 to 112 Fahrenheit.
I can't help you notice you're rugged up wearing a shamar. What's going on
Yeah,
there?
well, they don't. That doesn't translate into the inside of the office where it's 67. So I'm constantly going back and forth.
All right, say no more. Are there many women in the office?
There are.
Doesn't seem like the battle, though, when it comes to the thermostat in the office. It's usually between the masculine who's too hot and the feminine that's too cold.
That's true. But even I've
Right.
lost the battle today. The rest of the
Yeah.
office has got it below my tolerance.
Well, you're a smart man. You just, any smart bloke, we go, yeah, just give it to the ladies, whatever you want. We'll work it out from there. Mate, it's great to see you. So if you can, for the audience, can you define, I said a little bit about it, but can you define your current field of endeavor? Not necessarily on the entrepreneurial side, but more so the spiritual side. It's what you're doing, because it's super interesting.
It's been something that's been simmering inside for a really long time. Probably got started 20 years ago when I worked at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California for a couple of years and realized that the power, the transformational power of place and intention, and was linked to my yearning to be a monk and then build a monastery over the years. And so that's culminated in this global meditation network we're building called the ACRAYA. And the ACRAYA is a spiritual path, for lack of a better term, for spiritual wanderers who gather truth from different traditions and integrate that into a cohesive journey up the mountain. And within all of the world's great traditions, there have been hidden esoteric practices where you go in a dark environment for 3 to 49 days and do specific meditation practices to accelerate your spiritual development. And so now, as the West is starting to waken up and you're getting meditation, yoga, spirit quest, plant medicine, psychedelics, all coming into collective consciousness, the tradition keepers from these different paths are slowly releasing this knowledge and access to it into the larger world to facilitate this shift. And so we're just doing our small part as a cog in the great machine, the turning wheel to make this modality more accessible to a broader audience. So it's a global network of darkroom meditation retreat centers. First one's going live in Costa Rica in a couple months. Then we have one we're doing in Mustan, Nepal with a Bun monastery, and then another in Bali with the yoga barn. And we got 10 or 15 more in the works over the next couple of years.
Yeah, great. Mate, before we go any further, I always like to get a sample of something that moved my guests as a child and then have a bit of a riff on why that was and then how it forges our adulthood in a way. So you gave me something earlier on, and I'm just going to pull it up for people. Whilst I'm pulling it up, talk us through it. What is it?
Well, when I was a child, I was growing up in upstate New York. We lived on 25 acres out in the woods. My dad was an academic and kind of a proto hippie. He raised endangered birds for a hobby. So we had pheasants, peacocks, parrots, ducks, geese, sheep, a whole bunch of things. And he was not a super happy guy for his own reasons. So there was no TV allowed in the house. We mostly read books. But the one thing we were allowed to do was listen to classical music and vinyl records. And so we had Kenny Rogers, The Gambler was one record, and Bill Cosby's comedy track, To Wrestle My Brother With Whom I Slept, was the other vinyl. And that was our entertainment. Those were the bright spots on the cold nights in the middle of winter. And we heated our house with wood. You wouldn't let us use the electricity because it was too expensive. And so we had a potbelly stove in the living room. My job was to keep it stoked. And so we'd be in our blankets around the stove, listen to Bill Cosby, eat popcorn. And that was like the bright spot in my childhood.
And you only had those two vinyl albums, or you have more? Were they the two you remember?
No, it was just those two. We had John Denver also. John Denver was okay, that passed muster. So Take Me Home,
So
Country
The Gambler,
Road.
Yep. Country Road,
Kenny Rogers.
And Bill Cosby.
And Bill Cosby.
Wow, mate.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. I'm just going to play a little bit of a sample for people so we can go back into it.
How many of you here happen to be the only child? Hang your hands together. All right. Okay. Not too many of you, and some of you don't know if you're the only child. Which is not your fault. It had nothing to do with it. But you always, because I was the oldest, see, and whenever I wanted to, I would turn around and punch the youngest one. What'd you do that for? Nothing. Because Dad hit me 3 months ago. Over you.
Mate, I'm going to stop that there, but it's a nice little taste of what you're talking about. Holy cow, mate. So that's so loaded. It was the only thing you could listen to that was different to music. So how many times did you listen to that over and over again?
Hundreds, probably more. I mean, it was either that or read books or listen to classical radio. So NPR.
That was it.
That was it. The whole album memorized by the time I was 10, bro.
And with that subject that he talked about as well, was there a resonance there?
Oh yeah.
As well?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My brother's 2 years younger. My sister's 6 years younger. Yeah. My dad wasn't physical, but it was challenging in other ways. And that stuff always flows downhill. So it totally landed.
How old were you when you started listening to this?
This is first grade. So what, 6?
Wow, 6. So did you find yourself recanting that to other kids at school as well, pretending to be the characters, talking through it?
No, but in art class, you were allowed to bring something to share with the class. And so I would bring Bill Cosby, and this other kid, Chris Purcell, he would bring, he had some country music he liked to listen to. And so we'd battle it out in art class to see whether we were going to listen to country music or Bill Cosby. And I won about half the time.
Wow. And it would play in the background whilst you're doing your art.
That's right. Yeah.
So even at school, you're listening to it, home and at school.
Yeah. Well, it had, it was the escape hatch from, my father's wrath.
Yeah, got it. And do you believe that forged your pursuit into spirituality or into something greater?
I think it forged my discomfort with fun.
Oh, go into that for me. Discomfort for fun. Explain that.
Well, when we were kids, whenever we were laughing and having fun, we got in trouble. My dad would get pissed and put us to work. Go do chores or chop wood or put gravel the driveway or clear brush or whatever. So you had to hide your fun. Then at Cosby was permissible fun. And so, I'm not what you would call like a super bubbly, fun guy. That's not in my family, my wife, that's my wife's job. She makes life fun and I take care of business.
Alex, God bless her. And now Dragon.
And Dragon. Yeah. So maybe that led to monastic tendencies because, I had my inner world in books was my main escape, which is there's a lot of parallels to meditation and spirituality.
What do you think it meant about your father, what inside his brain? You having, there's an emotional reaction to science because we think, I've talked about this, it means something about us. So you said you weren't allowed to have fun. What do you think in your father's mind it meant about him that his kids were having fun?
Well, my dad's dad was an army doctor and was on the front line when they liberated Auschwitz and was picking up men like cordwood off that were stacked inside the concentration camps. And that broke him when my dad was a little boy. He came back and just never came back from that. And so there wasn't, and they were Baptist fundamentalists. And so there was no dancing allowed when he and my mom couldn't go to prom because they weren't allowed to go to dances. And so fun was not permitted. And he, for better or for worse, wasn't able to break that cycle and reprogram it. And so that pattern just got handed down unconsciously.
Yeah, got it. Do part of your spiritual journey over the last 40 years to cut that away, that which is not yours, your lineage, your father, your grandfather, as you said, because you've done a great job. I got to tell you, mate, you've done a great job at stopping that, because your children are fun. Your wife is fun. You say that, you do laugh a lot, and we've had some great times.
Yeah.
So you did a great job of breaking that cycle, but did you have to consciously delineate between that which is theirs and that which is your stuff?
Well, I when my daughter was young, I found myself taking on my dad's patterns and characteristics, which had not served our relationship, and had to make a conscious decision to reprogram that. And actually enrolled my daughter in that process and said, hey, like, this is how my dad was with me. I don't want to be that way with you. I'm going to change. I giving you permission to call me out if I'm slipping into the old ways, and I'm going to do better. It's going to take some time. And, I want you to come on that journey with me. And so she learned a lot about family karma and patterns and inheriting different things from your folks as we went through that journey together. And the fun has been a piece that I've had to work on. It's not my forehand. It doesn't come naturally. It feels uncomfortable. But so part of my solution to that was to marry a wife who's super fun so that I can ride her coattails and kind of tag along, because I'm such an idiot when it comes to trying to have that type of dynamic.
You're self-depreciating because the rest of the world doesn't see it that way.
Well,
I
maybe.
certainly don't see that. Maybe.
My kids probably give you a different answer, but
Of course they would. Of course they would. God bless them. Mate, well, thank you very much for sharing that. We're not even going to go into the whole Bill Cosby thing of how someone who, for a whole generation of us growing up in the 80s, he was the go-to for comedy. He was the world's greatest comedian. It's him and Robin Williams who were the standouts, who you knew they were going to give you laughs. His ability, his delivery, his style, his ability to play characters was bang on. But what was going on in the background, we had no idea about his individual personality, the demons that he had, and how he then did atrocious things. Such a shock to me when I found out about that. To everybody went, oh my, what? How was that for you, having had that core album being so much? What was it when you first heard that? Did you take a moment to assess whether or not it was true? Did you deny it? Or did you like, wow?
I mean, I think what I've learned in the sort of 25 or 30 years of chasing the rabbit holes is that, people are complicated, and you can be a fantastic world-class comedian and also have some blind spots that lead you to act in ways that aren't so benign or favorable. And Bill Clinton not being able to handle power in the White House with Monica, Bikram Chowdhury not being able to handle the fame of being a yoga teacher. I mean, the list is Rodney Yee not being able to handle the fame of being a yoga teacher. The list is really long of folks who are able to handle both. So I think you got to kind of take folks for what they are. And that was his genius. And it was a beautiful thing and a beautiful gift that he gave the world. And it also doesn't mean that he was perfect like all the rest of us. So I think it's more a mark of his humanity and less about some fatal flaw that makes it unredeemable as a human.
Mate, well, thanks for sharing that awesome insight into you. Let's talk about the Darkroom retreats. Let's talk about the science and the mysticism. So give me the lowdown. This is what you're focused on at the moment. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, there's really interesting things that happen in the dark. So the way for context for your audience, the way it works is you go into, it's a room that's sealed and it's completely dark, and you go in and you turn off all the lights, and then you're in there completely in the dark for a certain number of days. And there's a special door where they pass food through to you, but everything else you just do by touch and by feel. And so, like, if you have to go to the bathroom or take a shower, brush your teeth or take your medicine or whatever you're doing, you can't even see the hand in front of your face. And so for most people, just sleep for the first 48 hours. And an interesting thing happens when you go through that process. There's a reason that doctors tell you to go to sleep to heal. because when you go to sleep, your consciousness leaves your body and goes up into the inner worlds. And that allows your body to rebalance and heal itself, because the mind, the band of the mind that sits right here, creates a disconnect between the body and its homeostatic state and balance and the spiritual worlds. And so when you sleep, your consciousness slips out and your body rests and heals. And in the dark, in the absence of visual stimuli, in the dark, there's only two things. There's your breath and your thoughts. And so when you sleep for those 48 hours, your body spontaneously rebalances and heals. And there's all kinds of anecdotal stories about people who go in the dark and heal all kinds of things. The most famous one that nobody knows about is Joe Dispenza, who used this technique, a Buddhist meditation in the dark, to heal his spine and regrow it. And he had a student named Miracle, who's from Hawaii, who went in a wheelchair and 49 days later walked out and used Joe Dispenza's technique to regrow his spine with his visualization techniques and the focus in the dark. So there's a very powerful healing aspect to this. And then the other interesting thing that happens is after about 3 days, your pineal gland starts to produce DMT endogenous. With DMT is the God molecule, the active molecule in so many of the psychedelics that pops open the third eye and pushes you up and into the spiritual worlds. And so after about day 3, your body starts to produce DMT and your inner vision starts to awaken. And you start to have spiritual experiences that are as or more vivid and clear as you and I sitting here talking to each other in complete lucidity. You keep your eyes open, you see it. You shut your eyes, you see it. And people can have all kinds of spontaneous spiritual powers or cities emerge. It could be seeing all your past lives. It could be talking to dead relatives. It could be seeing into your body, the tendons and ligaments and muscles and blood vessels. It could be seen in the dark. So you could have your eyes shut in the dark and you can see everything like it's day. There's all kinds of spiritual powers that can emerge from that. But that act of being in silence, in quiet, in the chamber, it's not completely silent. You want a little bit of sound so you can anchor and tether yourself. But the absence of visual stimuli opens up the aperture of all your senses. And then you have all these incredible things that start to happen. And so in the spiritual traditions, a senior monk would be on the other side of the door. And each day or week would give you a specific meditation or spiritual practice that you would focus on to move yourself forward on the path. And it could be a visualization.
They would talk through the door. You're in the darkness and they would talk through the door.
Through the door. That's right.
In there.
You come check in. How you doing? How's it going? Did you do the technique? What happened? And based on your response, because each of these paths have spiritual markers in the inner worlds, and you can tell where you are in your journey by what you're seeing. It could be like a blue Taurus or a lotus or a yellow sun, or it depends on which path, a blue flame. It depends on which path you're working on. And so in these traditions, the novice monk would go in the dark, the senior monk would be on the other side, and this would be an accelerant to their spiritual development to help them move further. The way most Westerners do it, or new people do it, is you just go in there and you just observe the rising and falling of phenomena in a very much like Vipassana. And so you just sit there and you just have to be with your thoughts. And a lot of the stuff in the subconscious comes up.
Just for the audience, Vipassana is the silent retreat, typically 10 days of no communication, no speaking at all. You're in silence and meditation for like 14 hours a day. Sorry, continue.
That's right. And so you just observe what comes up. And it could be a lot of times it's stuff in your subconscious, your insecurities and your fears and things like that. Sometimes it's very beautiful. Sometimes it has visuals. Sometimes it's just colors. And so that can be extremely disconcerting for someone who doesn't have a stable, long-time meditation practice. And so one of the reasons that this practice has not been more widely available is the lack of facilitators who are trained and experienced and can help people, which was traditionally limited by the facilitator, the monk on the site, and the number of rooms you could put monks in to do the thing. And so it's like 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. And so you can't bring that experience to a broad audience if you're limited by having to be on site 1 to a couple, teacher to student. And I'm a technology builder by trade and training. And so what we have developed is a technology solution that's an audio-enabled solution. We put 20 or 30 speakers in the room, in the ceiling, the floor, and the walls. And we have a biometric monitoring suite that makes sure your you're healthy and safe, your respiration, your temperature, your heart rate, a bunch of other things, and a radar system. And so the radar system knows where you are in the room at all times. And the audio control system is attached to the cloud. And so you can be in a room in Costa Rica in the dark, receiving instruction from a Russian Orthodox monk in Siberia, speaking in Russian in real time with instantaneous translation, stored, encrypted, recorded, and you can get that instruction. And so what we built is a model that allows a student to pick your own adventure from a spiritual teacher and can receive instruction and support from any teacher anywhere in the world in any language at any time in real time. And so we've built, if you think about the analogy I use is the iPhone and the App Store. So the physical room is the iPhone. Our facilitation technology platform is the iOS, is the software layer. And then the facilitators are the App Store. And so you go, you pick your teacher, you pick your room, you pick your date, and you take your spiritual adventure. And so that solves for scaling and instruction and safety. And then the other thing we want to do is validate the physiological health benefits of this rest and rebalance experience. And so we have a research partnership with the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies that's supported by the Harvard Meditation Research Center. And we're doing the first of its kind study of the physiological impacts of being in the dark for 4 days. And so when we open the doors in Costa Rica in October, the first 30 or 40 people that go through, we'll do saliva and blood before, saliva and blood after, and a bunch of qualitative assessment metrics. And it'll be the first of its kind study to document the wellness and health benefits of this modality. And so if you look at sort of this from a first mover, first principles perspective and compare it to meditation, yoga, plant medicine, people are attracted to each of those modalities because of the transformational potency of the practice. They go and they do it, they feel or experience something, and that makes them come back and do it again. And the dark is more powerful and potent than any of those other practices by an order of magnitude. And so if you track historically how those practices have come from the East to the West over 20 or 30 years and draw a similar analogy to the adoption of the darkroom modality as a transformational practice, you can envision a future 20 years out where just like there's a yoga studio or 10 in every village on the planet, now you have a dark room or 10 in every village on the planet. And instead of, when you get sick, instead of going to the doctor, first you go into the dark, sleep for 4 to 8 hours, do the healing meditation, come out. And then if that doesn't work, then go see the Western allopathic doctor. So I think this is that we're like at the first at bat with the first pitch of the game of bringing this modality to the world.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Could you explain the ancient traditions of how far this goes back and which cultures were the ones that had embraced this methodology?
I mean, you can trace it back into almost all the traditions. So Muhammad sat in a cave and got the download for Islam. Jesus, 40 days and 40 nights out in the desert, and if you read some of the texts of the Essenes, a portion of that was in the cave. And certainly the Greek Orthodox monks go and sit in the caves for extended period of times. And the stories, the Philokalia and the Christian tradition, the stories of the desert fathers sitting in caves and praying. The Bun tradition, it goes back thousands of years. Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, Zen, Sufism, and almost all of them who have documented histories that go back into the hoary mists of time, there is a component, esoteric component of doing it in the dark to achieve this transformational experience.
Was the first time you became aware of it was when you were at the feet of masters in the Himalayas?
For me, it was over COVID. I was working with a Bun teacher in the Bay Area, and he was giving the teachings on Zoom, and I was so drawn to it that I blacked out a room in the house during COVID, and I did a couple of days to get the experience, and it was just so powerful. And then I've done other dark retreats since then, but that's what woke me up to the fact that this was such a transformational modality.
Yeah, right. And you weren't aware of it during your time on the subcontinent when you're at the feet of masters for those extended periods? Like, how long were you? You were over a year, weren't you?
Well, we've done a bunch of trips. So we went to Siberia and spent a bunch of time embedded with Russian Orthodox monastics in Siberia. We went to Myanmar, to Burma, and spent a bunch of time embedded with the Theravada Buddhists there. In India, at the Mahakumbh Mela in 2001 in Allahabad, and then also with different Hindu monastics in different areas. So it probably totals up to 6 months or so over a series of trips. But they're very they're sort of usually run about a month, and they're very intense experiences of embedding in monastic communities to understand the power of silence in the context of modern, the modern busy corporate professional world.
The reason why I asked that, because when you spent time with the intention of becoming a sadhu back many years ago now, what was that, 20 years ago now? You first
2001, 25 years ago.
Right. When I was on my journey and sitting at the feet of masters, it wasn't talked about. And I even became interested in it and put my hand up for it. They're like, no, they wouldn't even talk about it. And then later on, I learned, like, if we're not going to waste any energy with you on this because you are not ready. And it was really a one-on-one thing. If you're going to go into the cave for that period of time, the master is outside that period of time too. It's a journey for him as well. So it's got to be worth its weight for consciousness as a whole, for yours, and for the village, for you to do that. Even when I was sick a couple of years ago, and as you and I talked about this, I tried to get in to do it somewhere in the world, and they wouldn't have me. And that what it taught me actually was that was perfect, because it wasn't what was actually required. It was my mind going, here's something I haven't done, which is the way I was when I was traveling the world. I was a seeker, and after dying, I've become a finder. And that was a massive difference to be called out. And I've been told that before from masters, saying, there'll come a point in time where you'll stop seeking and you'll become a finder. And your concept about what you think you need. Now, we'll tell you what you need and when you need it. Your job is to surrender to that.
Yeah, that's
listen
exactly
to your body with it. But the fact that it wasn't even available, now there's a few that have popped up. There's one in Washington, there's a couple in Guatemala, there's a few sprinkled. And the big thing was about safety, was you couldn't have it in the Western world because you're in the darkness for 4 nights or 4 days. Yeah, they might be going through a psychosis. The fear that goes with it, no trust at all in the system, needing to have control over the way it is. It's like when I died from an ayahuasca journey and left my body, and the doctor takes my pulse and says, he's dying. And everyone freaks out in the room. And then the shaman who spoke no English just says, let him die, you idiots. Let him die. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm dead. Yeah. I'm like, shit. It was at that point in time, I looked down at everybody in the room. I was like, well, it didn't actually hurt that much. And all right. Okay. And I just surrendered. And then straight away, back in my body, sit bolt upright. Bumps in again. I was like, what the hell? And I look at the shaman, and the shaman just goes, the unknown, which is where it's at. So
those who know don't say, and those who say don't know.
Right. So I'm so proud of you for creating this stuff. If people want to become involved in the study to start with, because this is fantastic that there's first world studies to the science to back up what the mystics have always known. And that's fantastic. So can people still nominate to be in the study to start with from October through January?
Yeah, we still got slots left. There's a page on the website for the study at www.accraya.com. We can put it in the show notes and people can click through. And you do have to there are some caveats. You have to have some meditation experience. If you have addiction or dependency issues, PTSD, schizophrenia, you're not a good candidate for this. Not that you couldn't be at some point, but just the intensity of the experience, we filter pretty heavily for that, for safety. But otherwise, just go to the website, sign up, and if we still have slots available, we'll tuck you in. Yeah, great.
I'll put that up in the description, peoples. You can get the link to ACRAYA.global. Is that right?
That's right.
Awesome. But I'll put the link in there for everybody in the description. Fantastic. And people, so talk them through it. It's 5 days. First night.
You're signing up for 6 days total. So you arrive on day 1 in the afternoon. You get checked in, get comfortable. The second day, you just relax on the site. It's at Holos in Costa Rica, which is they got 6 waterfalls on the property. It's a wellness and retreat center, so there's things to do. You relax in nature, and
I
then
always have a problem with darkness retreats. I was trying to do one out here, and still the concept is in Australia, we will have 1 or 2 to come. But doing it in a beautiful space is you're in the dark for 5 days. So it's no good because it's so beautiful outside.
it's good when you come out, but
right.
it is.
Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
So on the second day after dinner, lights out, and then you go to sleep. And then most people will sleep for the first 2 days. So the second day you're in the dark, the third day you're in the dark, the fourth day you're in the dark, the fifth day you come out at sunrise in the morning. And when you come out of the dark, all of the aperture of all your senses is very heightened and open, and so it's very intense. Like you can't drive a car right after you come out. Like it's just not possible. It's like coming down off a really like a big molly bender without all the physical stuff. You're just like totally open and heart open, senses open, and so that day 5 you kind of like put the armor back on, shut the aperture back down, ground back into the earth, sit on your porch, look at the jungle, listen to the monkeys, the whole thing. And then on day 6, you depart sort of late morning and head back to the airport.
And the technology you've got basically monitors them 24/7 whilst they're in there. So that if they have a freak out or anything's going wrong and they need to sleep, they can do that.
The technology suite is hardwired in, so there's no Bluetooth, there's no Wi-Fi, it's all hardwired. We monitor you for your health and wellness. And then also you have a facilitator who's going to work with you through the whole time. So the facilitator will do some sessions with you before you go in. And then while you're in the dark, the facilitator is available. So if you're in there and you have stuff coming up and you want some support, you just say, house, I need to talk to my teacher. And then the house system knows when you're asleep and awake because it's monitoring you all the time. And so it'll send a notification to your teacher. Your teacher will see your awake sleep cycle, will schedule a time to talk to you. And then at the appointed hour, the house will chime you, bing, Kirk here, your teacher's ready to speak. Do you want to accept the call? Yes. And then you just talk like we're talking right here. And then when you get out, there's some integration work with the teacher as well to support you. Because integration has a long tail. It can take 6 months to really unpack everything that happens. So you're supported before, you're supported during, you're supported after, and we use the technology. Technology is adopted from the nursing home industry in Israel. And so it's very sophisticated, and it watches all your these biological markers to make sure that nothing's happening to me. Use algorithms to identify if you're starting to escalate towards any kind of event that needs intervention. And there's site team staff on site that can come and help you. And the door's open. Like you can just get up and turn the lights out and walk out anytime. You're not like locked in there or something. So it's the entire first principle is around safety. And then the second focus is on the experience.
Fantastic. I love that. What are some of the experiences people can have? What can they expect? I know this is a broad question, knowing what you and I know about. You just surrender and what needs. It's not what you want. It gives you what you need. But can you give people an
That's
example?
the hard part.
Yeah, right.
The people who have the most trouble are the most experienced meditators. Because they get in there and they're like, yeah, man, I'm a meditator. I'm going to sit there and I do my thing, my mantra, my technique, my teacher gave me. It's going to be bells and whistles. I'm going to like ascend on this column of light and the heavens will open. And like, that's where, and then the ego is like, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Black. So it's actually the best way to do it is to have no expectations and just be like, whatever comes up, I'm going to surrender and I'm going to take the ride. And it will give you, just like doing with Mama Aya, will give you exactly what you need in that moment. And it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody.
What are some of the success stories? What are some of the highlights, the randomness of people's experiences that you?
Well, I've seen kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD go in, and then after 3 days without their phones come out, and they're like, I don't have ADHD. I don't need any medication. I just need to not have my phone on all the time. And they're just like, they're dropped in, they're stable, they're calm, they're focused. A lot of people report stuff that comes up in their subconscious. So insecurities and fears that come up and come in your face that you can deal with. The facilitator that you have can influence the experience. So some facilitators specialize in like family histories or past lives, and people will see their past lives back through time in their different incarnations. I know one teacher who's developed a protocol for couples for conscious conception. So if you and your partner wanted to get pregnant, you go in one of our double rooms and you do his protocol, and you conceive a new soul and a child, bring a new soul into the body in full consciousness as part of the protocol. Or other people who specialize in like being able to see through your body. So you'll be able to see into your body, into your organs to see health issues and things. So it's a pretty wide range of experiences, and it depends kind of the path you're working on, how you're wired, your level of sensitivity, and the teacher you're working with while you're in there, which is why we've got sort of the app store of different teachers so you can find the specialty that resonates with you, that's aligned with where you are in your own journey.
Yeah. My observation has been that great healers, they just hold the space. And my quote, which is, they're not guiding you to a destination. They're just holding your hand on an adventure. And the Latin root of adventure is to put self in harm's way. It's not an adventure. They say, let's go to the shops on an adventure. Well, is there any danger involved? Any unknown? Because if it's not technically an adventure. An adventure is to step into the unknown. It's the hero's journey. You take that step and it's full of doubt and fear and you don't know if you're going to survive it. That's how you know it's your journey. It's your path because it's filled with that. And you step and take that step and you survive and then you thrive and then you have another step. That too is filled with doubt and fear because that's the hero's journey and you take that step. So I love what you're doing, mate, by having these guides who are simply holding your hand on the adventure, giving you that little bit of security, that support that you can do this. Can't tell you where you're going. Can't tell you what's going to come up, but I'm here with you for the unknown because that's where it's at. The dance floor of the gods, right? And
yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to move the furniture off the floor so you got room to dance.
I like it. Awesome. Thanks, bud. Okay, so next up is a segment I like to call Idea of the Week. And this week, the perfect tie-in, I like to call it Hello Darkness, my old friend. The power of sensory fasting. In a world addicted to constant visual and digital stimulation, true rest isn't just sleeping, as we talked about. It's sensory deprivation. Darkroom meditation works because it removes the brain's primary source of data, sight, and forces the mind to stop reacting to the outside world and start exploring the inner. And most meditation practices tell you to close your eyes, shut out the world, try to empty your mind. But at the end of the show today, we're going to do the exact opposite. We have a chance to play. We're going to do an entopic meditation, which literally means within the eye meditation. So for those of you who don't get a chance to come and do a darkness retreat, there is a meditation you can do, which is this entopic meditation, which we can play with to give you a small experience of it. How we're going to do that is we're just going to turn on the TV behind your eyelids. You're just going to lean back and enjoy your brain's own private light shut. The concept is instead of trying to fight your thoughts to clear your mind, you turn 100% of your attention to the visual noise behind your closed eyes. As you talked about with the ones who struggle the most are the deep meditators, have a concept about what they need to focus on, as opposed to being open to the unknown and just what's going to arrive because you can't call it. And there's going to be these swirling colors and moving light patterns and abstract shapes behind the eyes that appear when it's pitch black. And that's the anchor. By treating this internal light show as our focus, we can gently occupy our visual cortex. And it tricks the brain, naturally quieting your inner monologue and dropping you into incredibly deep states of consciousness. Science calls these shifting colors and shapes phosphenes, and you aren't imagining them. You're literally watching your own nervous system's background static as your retinas fire off natural electrical impulses. It's like the universal screensaver for you behind your eyes. And here's where it gets cool. When your brain is deprived of outside visual input, it gets bored and it turns up its internal amplification. This is known as the Gansfeld effect. And by focusing on this noise, you force your brain to switch from high stress beta waves into deeply relaxed alpha and theta waves, mimicking the exact state you hit just before you fall asleep. whilst staying wide awake. And neuroscientists have actually found that the geometric patterns people see behind closed eyes match the mathematical wiring of your visual cortex. You are looking at the blueprint of human sight. Fascinating stuff. I love this stuff. And the mysticism of it. The ancient yogis called this dark screen and correct me if I'm wrong, the pronunciation, Shidakasha, the canvas of consciousness. They viewed it as a literal bridge between the physical body and the infinite mind. Mystics across traditions, from Kriya Yoga to Taoist alchemy, instructed students to gaze into this internal darkness and focus on the point between the eyebrows. They believe that if you watch the shifting visual static long enough, it stabilizes into a ring of golden light with a blue sphere inside, a phenomena across all people who do it. They call it the spiritual eye, or the opening of the third eye. Some anthropologists believe that humanity's earliest art was inspired by this exact meditation. Like shamanic cultures sitting in pitch black caves would see these geometric shapes dancing in the dark and then paint them onto stone walls. This actually might be our oldest form of spiritual exploration, is this very meditation we're talking about. So we're going to have a chance to play with it at the end. I'm going to take you guys through just a 5-minute meditation. You can go for longer if you want, but we'll do that at the end of the show. Mate, with what I just said, any personal insights within that?
And that's the gateway. That's the gateway to the other side. So if you can let the mind calm enough to have the experience that you've described, and then you focus on that golden light with the blue center to the point where you absorb into it. And then that's when your consciousness, your attention can slip up out of the body, and then you can head up into the astral, the causal, the cosmic, and all the different layers.
Right.
So that first step, when we talked about earlier about the milestones, the inner milestones linked to the paths, that golden light with the blue center is the first inner milestone that tells you you've been able to focus your attention and see the third eye, and you have a direction to go.
Yeah, I remember going back to our shared teacher, our masters, George, going deep into the layers, the portals, if you will. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And when you think you've gone the deepest, another world opens up again and again and again. And dig it.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there. Again, the joy of where science meets mysticism, right at that edge of it. And we could talk about it as much as possible. You and I both have people in our lives who are experts in recanting the science, and yet complete novices when it comes to the experience of actually applying themselves. It takes the yards. Are you still meditating 2 hours a day?
No, not about. I get up at 4 and I do about an hour in the morning.
I don't know. How many hours do you think you've racked up in meditation over the last 40 years?
Well, I started when I was 27, and for a long time I was doing 2 a day. I probably missed 10 days in the last 28 years. So I don't know.
You've missed 10 days in the last 28 years. Wow. That's certainly above the 10,000 hours, mate. Wow.
It's been a run.
Good lad. Good lad. It's in the doing, not in the talking about it. Great stuff. What was the one thing you would have told yourself as a 16-year-old? The segment I like to call Dear Dickhead, because my theory is that we're all pretty much dickheads at 16. You know, I ask from our elbow. We think we do. What would you have told yourself? What's the one thing you think would have moved the needle?
Well, when I was 16, I wish someone had introduced me to meditation and all this stuff when I was younger. I didn't come to it until I was in my early 20s, and it was like a man dying of thirst finding the oasis. So it would have been nice to get to that a little bit earlier. And the other thing I think would have been helpful is my dad wasn't a big fan of like teaching, like how to get through life. It was like, here's the deep end. Don't ask me any questions. Go figure it out. And it would have been nice if someone had come along and said, you know what? It's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. It's going to be tough sometimes, but it's going to turn out all right. Just keep going. And that would, I think, cause me a lot less heartache and grief, anxiety and stress over the years, wondering if I was going to sink or swim at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. And do we forget that, like with our own children, to remember that that's the greatest thing that we can offer? It's going to be okay. You work it out. You got skills and you got backing. No matter what happens.
I think that's part of it. Part of it is knowing that you are surrounded by people who love you unconditionally, and so you can go take risks and try different things. But a part of it is also giving your children the gift of explaining how the world works so that they can, it's like, I think of a great basketball player, Kobe or Jordan or whoever, right? The first part of that journey is a slog, just putting in the hours to learn the skills. And then once you got it wrapped, then you get to the artistry and the creativity and the fun. And so, at least for me, my philosophy is I want to teach my kids the nuts and bolts of how reality works so that they can get to the part of pure creation and joy sooner and contribute, find their purpose, become aligned with it, and bring that magic and creative expression into the world, past the hurdles of like, how does shit work?
Yeah, right. And it's across cultures. My master first introduced me to this, and then when I went on the journey, I realized that most cultures say the same thing around the masculine and feminine. The feminine role is in the first 24 moons, first couple of years, is to show the child how it is loved. And then it becomes the masculine role over the next 5 or so years to show the child the way the world is, the way they are in the world. As the North American Indians tribes would take them to the highest peak and show them the lay of the land. This is the land. This is the way it is. And this is the way that you are. And certainly by the time of their coming of age ceremonies as early teens, they have a grasp on the map. It's the way the world is, the security of how they are loved. And then they get a chance to then step and bring something to the world because they're grown up. They have gone through the initiation. And it's something that we lack in modern culture. We've got people our age who are still children. They're still children, unable to deal with their stuff, let alone their lineal stuff that was thrown upon them. And they keep giving themselves more and more stimulus to stop them from shutting the fuck up and just hearing what needs to be heard. I think one of the greatest things we can do for humanity is the reintroduction of initiation ceremonies to show children how they are and that they are safe and they are loved. It means to be one of the most important things within a culture that we've lost. And everyone's trying to solve problems that haven't happened yet in an attempt to resolve their shit instead of just being with what's coming up for them. And everyone's
people are uncomfortable with the discomfort, and you got to go through the fire at some point. It's nice to have a bunch of tools to help you get through the fire, but ultimately you got to walk through that fire alone. There's just no shortcuts. And that's, I think, the difference between teaching your kids and coddling and insulating and spoiling your kids. I'm not trying to keep my kids away from the experience of life. I'm trying to give them a toolkit so that when they get in the shit, they can get through it and come out the other side.
It's quite the contrary. You actually want them to lean into the discomfort of life, the adventure of life, but with the toolkit to work it out.
That's right.
And coddling them does not help. Keeping them away in cotton wool does not help them because the nervous system is unregulated.
Yep.
The ability to regulate one's nervous, I talked about at length with ad nauseum with David B. Meadows, who was my Navy SEAL I had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And we went deep into the nervous regulation of high performance. And it's one of the key aspects. And thanks for that insight, mate. It's time for the spinning wheel of practices. This is the time when I spin a wheel and it lands on the practice of the week. And the practice of the week is going to be within the eye meditation I talked about earlier. Can you hang around?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm always game for a good meditation.
Yeah, right. Okay, it's just going to be a taste. So for you guys out there, it's a little 5-minute meditation. Now, most meditation tells you to close your eyes, empty your mind. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to turn on the TV behind your eyelids to observe these phosphenes we talked about, the natural electrical bioluminescence of your own eyes, or chitakasha, canvas of consciousness. Instead of fighting your thoughts, you're just going to sit back and watch your brain's own private light show. It's one of my favorite meditations because it's actually fun to lean into it. Whether you want to look at this as modern neurological brain hacking or ancient mysticism, either way, it's just a beautiful, effortless way to meditate. So we're going to close out the show by trying together and see what's playing on this screen today. So as always, right now, I'll talk you through what we're going to do first and how to set yourself up. And then you can pause the recording, and when it suits, you can just play it and begin. So the setup. So if you can, but not a deal breaker, I want you to find a room, make it pitch black, or use a blackout eye mask, and just eliminate all ambient light and sound, and sit or lie down comfortably. Preferably sit, because lying down can have the temptation. For the first 2 minutes, if you're in the dark, keep your eyes open in the dark, letting your brain realize there's nothing to look at. And then a couple of minutes in, I'll give you the impetus to close your eyes and turn your attention entirely to the screen behind your eyelids. Instead of trying to clear your mind, just observe the internal visual static, the colors or shapes that naturally arise when light is removed. And if your mind wanders to your to-do list or a thought or an image or a picture in your mind, just gently bring it back to focus on what you see on the inside of your eyelids. Be patient and notice all the shapes and colors, not images. If you aren't doing any darks, no drama, just close your eyes from the start. So do what you feel you need to do to get comfortable for the next 5 minutes. And if you're ready, pause this and get yourself set up and then hit play when you're ready. The within the eye meditation. Get comfortable, put your feet on the floor, do what you have to do to feel comfortable for the next 5 minutes. Let's take a big breath in together and let it all go. Another short breath. Let it all go to get into rhythm and out. Take another big breath in and hold it at the top. Hold it. And let it all go. Take another big breath in. Hold it at the top. And let it all go. Take one more big breath in. And let it all go. And now just breathe normally. You hear my voice, and it takes you deeper, deeper, and deeper. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, your belly, and it takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. Allow yourself to let go and let go and let go. In the dark, letting your brain realize there is nothing to look at. If you haven't already, close your eyes. Turn your attention entirely to the screen behind your eyelids. Just observing whatever's on the screen that is the back of your eyelids. If your mind wanders, just bring it back to the colors, shapes, internal visual static, naturally arise on the inside of your eyelids. Allow yourself to become fascinated with what you see. Or don't. Just observing. Relaxing your body and just allowing yourself to enjoy what's on the screen. In a moment, I will count from 1 to 5, bringing you back. 1, 2, 3, wiggling your fingers and toes. 4, giving thanks. 5, eyes open, wide awake, fully alert, feeling fine, perfect health, feeling better than you did before. You guys can do that for as long as you want. It's your homework for the week. Take time out, even just a short reset. It really can be enjoyable. If you get a chance to go for a long one, go for that. Go for half an hour or an hour. You may find that time will stand still for you and you can go really deep for a long period of time. That's an exponential curve of depth. Mate, Ian, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a delight.
Always great to see you.
Yes, my friend.
You others out there, do your homework and remember, nothing means anything about you. Lean into life. Get after it. Take those steps. Be bold. You are loved. And with that, have a great week. Cheers.